Welcome to GROGTALK.
Welcome.
Episode 16. And Dan and I are a little tired because somehow this weekend has now become the mini grog spring GrogCon.
Yes.
Because we have 3 games. There's 3 games happening this weekend. I hosted a game last night. You're hosting a game this morning. So you're preparing for that.
Yes.
And then I have the weekly game that I go to on Saturday. So I'm thinking about 12 hours of D&D play. So of course the answer then is that means the significant other is not here, which is why I'm able to do this.
Yeah, because that's what you do when your wife goes out of town. You go crazy and you do a lot of role playing.
Yes, and my wife was really concerned. Like many leaving their husband home and thinking, what would he do? 18 hours of role playing.
It's a perfect cover.
Right.
Because it allegedly takes up large swaths. Is that
yes.
Right?
Well, but if this is a ruse, I am taking this extremely seriously because I bought all these books. I spend my Saturdays doing this. So
your affair better be really good.
Yeah. My second life, whatever that is awesome.
Better be worth all this money.
Putting in books, learning about podcasts,
preparing an adventure. Just DM me a campaign.
Right. Just exactly.
You're going to be too tired to have an affair.
That's right. Yeah, this is it. Well, I have a mistress. It's role playing, and unfortunately, it's definitely a lot of work. But so today on our word of recall, we're going to continue our conversation about magic items, and because there's a lot of topics, we're going to talk about scrolls. And we probably should, let's, because we don't have that much time. We're going to talk about scrolls and artifacts because those are 2 major ones. We talked about rods, staffs, and wands. We'll go over these, and then what we have left is rings and then miscellaneous items. And potions. I guess we didn't talk about potions. No. We did that. So, but we'll start with scrolls because I think that's another item that has some confusion that we hope to dispel, or we're going to exacerbate.
Or generate, yes, exacerbate.
And artifacts are one that it's something that a lot of campaigns, it's a great way to add flavor, but a lot of people are very leery to put them on because they can be world breakers. So Dan, I know you're getting ready for this morning's game, so I'm not going to torture you too much with questions, peppering with questions, but regarding scroll. So what is a scroll? How does it differentiate from a spell book? And what are the pros and cons of a scroll when it comes to magic?
Right. So a scroll is going to contain a spell or spells, and scrolls differ from. I feel like I'm in school, but that's okay. Scrolls differ from D&D school.
Is this a Socratic method?
You're using the Socratic method on me.
So there you go.
Scrolls differ, except if you're not mean. Scrolls.
But I'm Greek. Doesn't that count?
I don't know. Is there an association between
Socrates?
Oh yeah, that's right. There is. You would be expected to use it. Yeah. Scrolls differ from spell books in that the spell book, the spell is written there. I guess we can say the book can burn or something, but it's permanently there, and so you can memorize it as often as you need to. With a scroll, it's a one and done. Right, unless, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, unless you're going to write it into your spell book, but it's a one and done. So you read the spell from the scroll, it disappears. And I'm trying to remember, does the scroll turn
as far the actual glyphs disappear.
Disappear. But scrolls are very useful in that you get to, even if you don't, we'll talk about this as well, I'm sure. Even if you don't know the spell, right? You can use the scroll. I don't think, if I recall correctly, you don't have to roll to know spell. Is that right? To use it off a scroll, and they're nice because they also give the spellcaster an opportunity to use that scroll, right? To put it into their spell book. So it's a nice way because magic users are desperately trying to generate spells for a spell book, right? I mean, if you wait to move up levels to get more spells, your spell book is going to be pretty thin.
Right.
And so scrolls are very useful when you find them. You can't use them though, right? I mean, you don't want to cast the spell if you want to put it into your book.
Well, that's
right?
the conundrum.
That's conundrum. So that's how scrolls differ. They're one and done as opposed to spells that you can use again and again when they're in your spell book.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So again, in first edition D&D and all D&D, there's this type of magic that's been called Vancian magic from the Vance books and Dying Earth and those books where the idea, and it's interesting because computer games have shied away from it. This idea that the words actually have meaning, and the enchanter or the spellcaster has to memorize this recipe, this series of words, and the effort of doing that captures the information, the power, and then when they say it in the writing condition, not only does the spell come forth, but they lose that. The memory is lost, and they have to rememorize. It's like you're cramming for an exam, and then you purge it out at the exam, and then you have to relearn it.
Right, because you forget everything the minute you walk out of the exam.
So in some ways, they're terrible students because they cram everything and they spit it out. So depending on your level, the idea is that you have more capacity and more capability to learn more spells. You can memorize more spells and more complicated spells. So you have a finite number of spells per day. And so your choices, as your spell book, which is a permanent record of the spells that you can memorize, grows, you have to select from them. And so every magic user, as their spell book increases, has this conundrum of which spells do I select for the adventuring? And a scroll allows you to have a wider choice of spells at your disposal without memorizing them.
And I should mention, while it's on my mind, if I recall correctly, scrolls, you don't need magic, you don't need spell components.
Right. So they're basically, it's like a cribs test. It's a cheat sheet that has everything that you need in a scroll format. It also doesn't have the chance, at least the way I DM it, for not failing, though I'm sure spell failure. So another challenge we've talked about before is when you're in combat, you have the magic user, the spellcaster has to stand still, either has a verbal component, a somatic component, spell components. They have to perform this ritual for as long as the scroll spell happens. And if they're interrupted at any time, they get damaged. So the idea is the scroll, well, at least I've never played it, though I'm sure people do, where they recite it off the scroll that you have less likely or no chance of spell failure in that case.
So I never thought about that. Okay, so you do not apply the interruption rules to scrolls. Do you apply?
But you could. I just choose not.
So in other words, you're not aware of there being an answer in the books on how to apply the interruption rules to the scroll. Does the book talk about? I can't remember about how long casting time. So I assume you apply the casting time though.
Yes.
Of the actual spell.
We should. I probably don't as much as I should. Meaning that I do not take that into account as much as I should. Meaning, a lot of times, so if a spell had, let's say, a 1 round casting time, which would basically be a whole combat round, unless I remember it, a lot of times I'll just say, oh, you cast that and it happens, where you should be applying the casting time. Absolutely. Because in theory, the reason the cast time is increased because the spell, the way to incant it, takes that long.
And so your theory on the not applying the interruption rules, well, I'm just repeating basically what you said, is that you believe with the scrolls you don't need. I mean, obviously, if you're reading off a scroll, you can't be waving your arms around and doing any sort of somatic, right?
So the idea is maybe the reason when you get struck in combat, it's a problem because you have a somatic component, the hand component, and that it has to be very precise movements, and so maybe the utterance is as you're getting stabbed, so many dominate, and you can do that too. I don't know if I'd rule that because then, of course, you're gonna have players going, well, this spell only has a verbal component. Why can't I do that for just a verbal, like command? If I try to cast command,
right?
So I think you should apply it, but generally I've hand waved that. And so maybe I need to start doing that. I'm going to write that down. I'm sure my players are really excited about scrolls being interrupted and their valuable scroll gets damaged.
Please cancel the podcast. No more podcasts.
We have this very powerful spell and someone touches the magic user, now their scroll gets
Well, I never understood. I think we talked about this before. I don't understand why the interruption rules only apply if you're hit. Because the DMG, somewhere I believe, explains how everything has to be precise.
Right.
Melee, we know, is a series of dodges and feints, right? Moving around. It's just what, your chance to hit is when you have an opening. Well, if you're attacking on a magic user, the magic user, even before they actually if they don't get hit, I mean,
Sure.
who stands there? I mean, what's that, an AC 20? I mean, who just stands there to be
AC
hit?
20. What are you? We're playing 3rd edition now. There's there is an AC 20. That's good. That's like AC 0.
That's the other way around. That makes no sense to me.
Dan, you're just saying things. It's like you're making up words now.
I know. I was trying. I was trying to make it funny.
No, it is funny. Right. It's funny because you said AC 20. That's good.
See, I don't know anything about 5th edition, any edition.
3rd edition. But your point is well taken that the idea of a melee round is there's a series of feints, and that when you're actually rolling, that's not your only hit. So I agree with
because really it should be the magic user should have to stand in the corner, as they often do, and out of it. And if I see you casting a spell and I run over at you and I start to whack at you, you're going to be fumbling. That spell, it seems to me, has been interrupted, but we know that's not the rule.
So yes, and like a lot of things, you as the DM have to decide how much of this suspension of disbelief you're going to take it to, and I will argue that that's why you make a roll. In that, basically, you've taken the round to go towards the guy. Mm-hmm. You as the attacker are navigating through the combat, and just as you get to the thing, that's why you get that one attack, and it's at full advantage because they don't have all that armor class, and that one attack represents you getting to the thing, you lining up a perfect attack because that's why they don't get their AC bonus and everything else, and then it misses.
But we could change the facts. I mean, we could be like they're in melee. So magic user is fighting in melee. Could happen with a dagger, right? And then all of a sudden decides to cast a spell the next round, and so they're already in melee.
Right.
They win initiative, but it's on. They're going on like I don't know segment 5 or 6 or something like that.
Thank you for watching. I know whoever was we just turned them off when we talked about segment 5. They were like, oh my God, they're talking about combat.
Right.
Yeah, but go ahead, you're right.
Because you're supposed to keep track of it, right? Segments.
Exactly.
So what happened those first 4 segments?
Right.
You're like, that's pretty impressive. You're just standing there doing your business, right? I mean,
well, and then how much of the casting time is really casting time or the preparation of the casting time?
Oh, that's right.
Perhaps the casting time includes the pre-casting time, getting the spell component,
right,
organizing a way which you don't have to be as rigid. The only time that actually is the casting is the verbal and semantic component, which could be maybe a segment only at that point. It's at that moment you get the attack. Yeah,
but we know that it's all lumped together because if you
the defense rests, by the way, for Gary Gygax. That's my.
It's all lumped together though because if you win initiative and you get a 6, right? I mean you may go right at the beginning, right? I mean you may go on segment 1,
right?
And a spellcaster you're going to say you can cast your spell on segment 1, right? Though I think there's somewhere that it says that Gygax I believe said on one of the online things said that
this is hearsay.
So it is hearsay. Yes, this is inadmissible. Is that it was it goes the round after, the segment after.
Okay.
That it was when it takes effect. But
the round after.
It's segment, not round. Segment after. It takes effect the segment after. I can find it.
So you can cast a spell, still be killed, and then the spell would go off.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, interesting.
All right,
but
shall we talk about scrolls?
Yeah, but these are the complexities of spell casting that, depending on how the DM or you as the DM adjudicate, having a scroll eliminates a lot of those issues and gives you a better palette. And that's why the idea of magic users as they attain higher level, and we'll talk about what level you have to be because there's some confusion on that. We'll write these and prepare them so that they have a bigger palette of spells to when they're doing adventuring or whatever the case may be. So they provide additional spells. They also allow you to cast spells that you do not either have the level to cast or the aptitude to cast naturally. So, and that's probably another big area. So if you're a DM and you want to help a party, give them some additional bonuses or capabilities without breaking your world with, let's say, so for instance, in the campaign I'm running, travel is a hassle. They have to overland. They don't have any quick way to do it. So a high-level magic user has given the highest level spellcaster a scroll of teleport, which is a 5th level spell. You have to be 9th level. He's 8th level. So we'll talk about later. It's very likely to work, and it allows them to move the party quickly because they have a portable hole. They put most of the characters in the portable hole. They take the person, he casts teleport, boop, and they go over there, and they've shaved days off their travels, which they would not be able to do if they didn't have this capability. So that's the advantage of scrolls. But then the magic user has that challenge of they're a 4th level magic user. They find a scroll of fireball. They're in the dungeon. A bad battle comes. There's 20 orcs descending on the party, and there's, let's say, 5 adventurers, or some version of this. And of course, everyone looks to the magic user and goes, "You need to cast fire. You need to use that fireball." And they go, "No, I'm not casting that fireball because if I use the scroll, I lose it." And they're going to go to 5th level, and they would have 2 3rd-level spells. They would get one for coming 5th level and fireball. So that's when there's a lot of anger in the party.
Yes, but aren't we ahead of ourselves? You don't have a scroll. You just found a cylinder.
Oh.
You just found a tube. I mean, you're assuming.
Yes.
Right? Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was from last week. We went over this. We don't just. What are we, players now? You're exactly right, Dan.
I love it, and I love because the very first paragraph on scrolls. This should be
what page are you on?
I am in the DMG. I'm on page 127.
So set this up. To Dan's credit, you can't go to Scrolls or Us. You can't go to Scroll Emporium. You have to find them.
Typically,
you
could try it. You could. It depends on the flavor of your campaign. You might have a Scrolls or Us.
First edition. That's not you.
The Scroll Barn.
The Scroll Barn. That's right. You break it, you buy it. You own it.
You cast it, you buy it.
That's right.
You break it, you buy it. You cast it, you buy it.
You burn the whole place down, you buy it. That's right. But yeah, that's a great point. So again, back to our adventure with Pixie and Glades when they defeated Shargroth the dragon. I've named him 3 or 4 times. One of the things you would have potentially found in the chest is...
Yes, a cylinder of some kind. What I love about this first paragraph, because the first paragraph on the scroll, it should be a happy paragraph, shouldn't it? Scrolls are awesome. Basically like we did. That was appropriate. But this is not Gygax's way. The first paragraph is basically how to make things difficult on your players, right? So scrolls will generally be found in cylinders, tubes of ivory, jade, leather, metal, or wood. You may, so it's discretionary, you may require that players read certain magic runes or writings inscribed on tubes in order to open the container in some cases. This enables you to have read magic or comprehend languages spells taken and used, as well as giving the possibility for traps, symbols, explosive runes, and curses, along with a powerful scroll.
Interesting.
So now I noticed he says along with a powerful scroll, so I don't know if he's suggesting you only do that for powerful scrolls, but so you're going to find a cylinder or a tube, and then you have the choice as a DM to make it difficult to open, right? How often do you do that?
I don't think I've ever done that, but I think it's a good idea. And it also lends itself to the read languages ability of the thief, which would allow him, later he's able to read magical scrolls. So it kind of lends itself why the thief, as they get higher level, have that ability, because they could find this cylinder that has a password on it or some cryptic writing that he'd be unable to open, like a magic box, but because he's a high-level thief, he could figure that out and then open it and actually figure out what the treasure is.
Oh, because I was just about to ask that, about how comprehend languages would work there. I understand how read magic would work there. So comprehend, if it's magical writing, can you use a comprehend language on it? Or, I mean, obviously any writing on there that is going to enable it to be open is magical. Right, I mean, it's not a mechanism.
Right.
So, is comprehend languages would work with magical writing?
Well, maybe you argue that you need both read magic and comprehend languages. You could say it's in a language, it's magical, but it's not a language you understand. Or is magic language universal, which is another interesting question.
It does say, but I mean, the fact that it says comprehend language, I mean, Gygax seems to be suggesting, correct, that, right? Oh, comprehend languages. Oh, so that's the spell, right? Because it's in italics.
Right.
So comprehend, but how would that be different from the thieving skill, right?
That's a good question.
It says orc. So it sounds like comprehend languages. I'm going to look up. Oh, you're going to look up comprehend languages
I'll look
in
up
the
comprehend languages very
DMG, and I'll
quickly.
look it in the.
because that's another first level spell that no one can. Besides push and mending, which again,
Push.
Our dear friend from down under was an advocate of push. So thank you. And
And he sold me on it.
right.
I
Well,
like
it
it.
doesn't take much to sell you on spells that are marginal utility.
I know. I'm always looking to use the underused.
Well, go ahead.
No, it's just so the description. Oh, we're about the same place.
I thought you were going to the thieving. Well, here it says it will incomprehensible written message such as a treasure map, but not magical writing, other than to know its magic.
What?
That's what it says. So,
I'm confused.
yes. Well, you're supposed to dispel confusion.
I'm confused.
Well, that's the reverse. Confused languages.
yes, that because it says or.
What page is that on?
This is on 127 of the DMG.
127.
This enables you to have a read magic or comprehend language spells taken and used. So that suggests that comprehend language doesn't make any sense. Maybe someone can call the grog line
That's
or
right.
text the grog line
407
or message the grog
I
line,
keep
whatever the
forgetting
kids do nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it could happen.
Snapchat us.
No, don't do that. We
Don't
don't
do
have
that?
that. Hey, we don't have
We're not
that.
on Snapchat?
No,
Why not?
Or Instagram, nothing like that.
What?
That'd be a waste of your
You're
time.
our IT guy. What's going on here?
Well, it's a lot of work. 476-6779. That's why.
Explain to us why comprehend languages would enable you to open a scroll tube.
Right.
No, it might be. It might be explaining how to open it, like open here.
Oh.
It could be written, it could be Orcish for open here.
Right. That would be the one thing
That would,
would help.
that would make sense.
Like push here, only push
exactly,
2
button
out of 3.
below.
Yeah, which you would hope that if they were going to do, why would they put that on there?
Push and turn.
Push and turn, that's right.
Keep it away from kids, child safety.
I love it. No, that's good. I mean, I think that's a reasonable answer for something we're stretching for, as opposed to the more likely scenario, which is the player's handbook was written. That doesn't make sense.
Where are you going with this?
Well, actually, no, I have to retract that because the Dungeon Masters guys came after the player's handbook.
Right.
So now I have nowhere to go with that.
And then that, of course, if comprehend languages does work, then it raises the issue of, does that mean thieves? Thieves could be opening scrolls with comprehend languages. Look, but it says comprehend languages. It says it's not magical.
Right.
So I'm wasting my breath. But not a magical writing. I already know it's magic.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you asked your first question was even more pertinent, which is, have you ever done that? I don't recall ever doing that. I think occasionally a dungeon will have a scroll case that's locked. And there's, then I basically ask the thief to do his pick locks. I allow him to do a pick locks thing to open it.
Why would you look, I understand why I want to put a trap on my scroll case. So if, the thief comes around, they're blown up or whatever. Why am I putting a magical writing on it to keep it from being opened? Because someone's just going to take it. They're going to steal it. What do I care if someone else uses it once it's been stolen? I only care if I can use it. Why would I put that on there?
Well, that is an interesting question. I guess the analogy is to prevent, maybe it's like a child safety lock. You're not preventing, it's like a barbarian safety lock. It's not meant to prevent, people who have time to do it. It's to prevent that thing where the thief is fumbling through your stuff and trying to steal stuff. They can't use it against you right away, or the magic user can use it against you right away.
All right.
That
makes sense.
It's the same thing why people have safes in their houses. If they're not bolted to the ground and the thief has all day, or they take the safe with it, eventually they're going to open it, right? But people still have
no, you do. Okay, no. You know how you put you put an alarm, you put the little, little sign in your yard,
Right.
saying I've got the alarm system. So maybe what you do, it's got to be a deterrent. I think you're right. You're onto something here. It's a deterrent effect. In front of the magic user's house, you have a little sign that said all scrolls
That's right.
are protected with magical, right? All are encased with magical.
All scrolls are cursed, are protected by curses. That's right.
And I get a discount on my insurance, I think, don't I?
I think
if
you
I do that?
I think you do. The Wages Guild gives you a discount. I don't think it's just for the sign. I think you actually have to put in the security measure.
The sign is a smaller discount.
Yeah, it's just like the fake cameras or whatever. If you have a fake wizard eye, that doesn't help you.
The fake dog.
Or the fake blink dog, that doesn't help you either.
Right.
You need to have a real blink dog.
Blink dog in yard?
Yeah, that would be good. I think, well, I'd like a blink dog in my yard. That's the only dog I want right now. But, wow, we're a segue
Cerberus.
here.
All right, we better get moving. I got to get ready for this adventure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not too bad. You got plenty of time to jibber jabber. So I think that's a good idea, and this is part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, because a lot of this we forget, and some of this would be really cool. Because you heard last time that the players just love to have multiple steps to get to what they want. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have read magic? Well, then you can't open the scroll. Well, that means they have to wait to go back to town.
Oh, and then let's make it even worse. Then you open up the scroll. You need to read magic to read this.
Right. You have to double read
you need to. Right.
Or do you need double read? How long does read magic last?
Oh, very interesting. You got to be fast about it. That's a great question.
I believe it would.
Oh, okay. That'd be terrible.
I think it would last long enough to do that.
That'd be terrible. Like, can you imagine you're getting ready to go on the adventure? Okay, so you have 2 first level spells. What are you taking? 2 read magics. I'm unhappy with the magic.
It's a couple rounds a level. So they have some time.
Oh, that's interesting, because I always assumed, I mean, like, no one really pays much attention to read magic. I assume you use it to read a particular writing inscription and it's done.
Right.
But no, I guess, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I'm just walking around able to read magic.
Right.
So I'm needing to move fast.
Well, it's like the tech magic. It's like you've been attuned to this capability.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
All right. What's the spell components on this?
Is there a spell component?
Yeah.
Probably carp.
You don't know?
Probably carp. No.
Little carp. Clear crystal or mineral prism.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, all right. So now, so I've opened, I find it's a scroll.
Yes.
And other people try to read it who can't read either a magic user doesn't have read magic, or whoever, your fighter looks at it.
So this is the good point.
What does it look like?
What's the difference between a scroll and who can read a scroll versus a treasure map or a cursed scroll and these type of things? Mm-hmm. And the way I've read the rules, magic users have a spell read magic. Clerics do not have a spell read magic. Illusionists, up until the book that will be remain nameless, did not. There is no read illusionist magic until the book that will be named never named, remain nameless. Right. So Dan's question is, they find the cylinder, they figure out a way to open it, either through a thief or they get the command word, and who should be the first person to look at the item? So if the magic user doesn't have read magic, they are not going to be able to, they will not figure it out regardless. It doesn't say anything to them. It's incomprehensible. So typically what a party will do, I don't know if it's a smart idea, is they will give the magic item first to a cleric. Because if it is a clerical scroll, for whatever reason, which doesn't make any sense either, but it is the way it is written, clerical scrolls are able to read. Now, that's clerical scrolls, not druidic scrolls, which, again, if you look at the bottom of page, what was 127? What page are we on here?
Oh, yeah, 127.
Yeah, 127. It says the type of scroll that you have. Yep. So they would not be able to read or understand a druidic scroll. So here's the scenario. You get this scroll. The cleric looks at it first, because when you look at the percentages of scrolls, it's a 70-30 split between magic user and cleric. The cleric should look at it first. If he or she doesn't see it, then they should hand it to the druid or the illusionist, and then they hand it back to the magic user and go, I don't know what it is. You're gonna have to learn read magic to figure it out.
Now, can I ask you this, because this is confusing to me? If you look at page 26 on the player's handbook under illusionist, it talks about, it says, the magical items usable by an illusionist class character are enumerated below. Illusionist scrolls and magic user scrolls, which contain spells usable by illusionists.
Yeah.
But illusionists don't have read magic, right?
That's right. Well, up until the book that shall remain nameless. Yes.
Right. So I'm confused. So if illusionist, because it's a special illusionist script,
right,
as you noted. So if it is a magic user, if it is a scroll with a spell that is usable by both illusionists and magic users, this says that an illusionist can use the scroll. But how does an illusionist figure out what it is? Illusionists don't, do illusionists even have, Well, I guess illusionists at a certain point can take magic user spells.
First level, their 7th level spell. They have a 7th level spell called Cast First Level.
Oh, can't wait to get there.
Yeah, that's right.
I have magic missiles.
That's right.
I finally have some offensive potency.
I can push.
I can
at
push.
14th level.
I've been waiting.
I can push at 14th
I
level.
can try to push Asmodeus.
Well,
into the.
Well, again, at minus 14 to hit, that's pretty impressive.
It'd be pretty. Yeah. Can you see if Asmodeus was like standing right over like an ice bath?
Right.
Right, and the illusionists finally get that push.
I'm sure that's happened somewhere. I'm sure some DM has said, "Oh, that sounds great. You push Asmodeus into the ice bath and you've killed him. Somehow you made a phantasm force of an illusion, even though he's immune
of an
to
ice
it,
bath,
and you push him into that.
He's like, "Oh, what's this? Why did this just appear?" He
In
fails
hell?
his,
How did this get here?
He fails his save.
That's right.
Right.
Wonderful.
And
Absolutely.
That'd be great. So, okay, so you see where this is going.
Yes.
Quit stalling with this Asmodeus nonsense or whatever it is.
Right.
So,
I have no answer for you.
Yeah, because what's it written in? How do I read that?
I have my answer.
What's your answer?
Don't allow illusionists because they're garbage. Remember, I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan, though I am improving that.
You know what I'm going to stick to, Carrie? If you play today, I'm going to make sure everyone picks first, and you know what's going to be the last one in the bucket?
Illusionist thief.
Let's say exactly.
No illusionist fighter. Just make it even more interesting. I'd rather have that because then I just run into battle. You would never cast
I always wanted to play a gnome fighter. Why don't people play these things? You know what I mean? It would just be.
Is there a fighter?
It's
illusionist?
unusual,
I think
right?
You can do that as a.
You can, huh?
You can no illusionist fighter. Is that a?
Oh no, I think you can do that. I was just meaning a straight up fighter,
Well,
like level 6 or something like that. I think you can do an illusionist fighter. I should know this, right? Since I'm like, I should become a gnome expert.
No, it's just fighter illusionist and illusionist thief or fighter. Fighter illusionist.
Fighter illusionist.
Yeah, that's it. That's the hot ticket right there. Fighter illusionist. Nothing says power like that.
Yes, the no. So all right, so
I don't have an answer for it. You're exactly right. That is because it's also, if the language was universal, like the illusionist language, it's a illusionary script, which seems to be universal, which allows illusionists to read them. The magic user script and way they cast, it's almost a unique permutation or their flavor of the recipe. That's why they need to use read magic to decipher the individual writing. So how do you square that? I don't know how you square that.
yeah, because that illusionist would not be. It's either written in illusionist script,
Right.
or magic user.
They would have to wait till 14th level.
Okay.
They would learn read magic, and then they could read the magic and they could use those scrolls. That's what I would adjudicate.
I think that's right. But you would have some scroll, but obviously you can have scrolls written in illusionist script, right? Yeah, I mean there's a second roll, right? So
Yes.
first roll and a second roll. So okay, I agree with that. I
So
like
if
that.
it's a magic user spell, sorry illusionist, you have to wait till 14th level so you could learn read magic, and then you could read those magic user spells. Then you could use those spells.
So more bad news for illusionists.
Right.
Great.
Right. More bad news. Well, they're
Okay.
super powerful now, so I don't feel as bad about that.
Okay. Anything else on the cylinders and opening up this thing?
Well,
I think it's open, right?
Yeah, it's open, and then what does it talk about in the next paragraph?
Okay, so each scroll is written its own magical cipher. So to understand what sort of scroll has been found, you have to use your read magic. We know that. Once it's read, then a read magic will not be needed to subsequently use it. So that's the good news. Is that once
Turned your alarm off. You figured it out at some point.
the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Well,
I think so.
I was waiting for our whole bit of the grog line ringing is over. You killed that bit, but that's
That
okay.
alarm, yeah, I think I had to set it for 4 a.m. this morning. I had to reset it to get up.
Yeah, you didn't actually turn it off. You just moved it to a different
Yeah,
time.
it went off at 4 a.m.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yes. So you don't need it twice. So once you use the read magic, I'm very upset. Look, this book is magic user centric.
It is.
Right? Everything's discussed. You assume people are spellcasters or magic users as opposed to clerics or leaders, but whatever.
There's not a lot of love for them.
Not a lot of love. So okay, so once you know what it is, now we're gonna get to the fading roll because I love the fading roll.
Yes.
But we're not there yet. Okay, not even a map will appear magical until the proper spell is used. Okay, explain that to me. What do you mean a map? You mean it's like a magical map? You mean what's going on there?
I don't understand how a map, because in other adventures they show that maps are normal, but if you made a
it has an X. I see it and has an X on it.
Right? Arrows.
Right. Treasure's here.
Here's the dragon. Here's the mountain.
Right.
Dot. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm thinking that if it had a magical basically incomprehend languages, that's why you'd have to use it.
Right. So okay.
There'd be some kind of encryption on it. It has BitLocker or Yemeri encryption on it.
Okay. So, but you can have a cursed. Reading a scroll to find its contents doesn't invoke its magic unless it's a cursed one. A cursed scroll does not. It can appear to be a scroll of any sort. It radiates no evil or special aura beyond the magic. So when it's magical, so that's the rough one. That's where you find the scroll.
Right.
You open it up. You cast read magic on it.
Wait, you don't have to. It says you can just if you start reading. If you try to comprehend it, the scroll should go off.
Reading a scroll to find its contents does not invoke its magic unless it is a specially triggered curse. Oh, so you think, reading a scroll, I see. So you're just saying, I'm the fighter. I open this thing up,
right.
And I'm like...
Yeah, that's why the cleric gets the screw job, because he or she is the only one who can read it. If you take the sample set of all paper documents that you're going to get, and assuming most of them are... And you've determined it is magical, right? You've somehow casted Detect Magic. You find the magical cylinder. So now you feel it's a magical scroll. Of them, 30% based on rolling is clerical, which means you can read them and figure it out. So you give it to because the magic user doesn't have read magic.
But only the cleric. Yeah.
Only the cleric has a chance to read it, and then you would know it's a magical scroll if you can't. If he or she does that and it's cursed, no matter, even if it was a magic, they will get the curse on it.
So the poor cleric. So you give it to the cleric.
Right.
The poor cleric will get cursed.
Who has the cure and everything else, they get blasted. So yeah.
Right, so the cleric's out.
Which is another reason why the thief needs to learn comprehend language and read magic scrolls, so they can do that and get killed. Because that's what
the illusionist. No,
illusionist thief. Absolutely.
Gone. Okay, so assuming that you've opened the cylinder,
yep,
you've unfurled the scroll,
yep,
you then are going. It's examining the scroll. Cleric's going to examine it first.
Right. Oh, and because if it's a clerical scroll, they'd be able to read it.
Right. They're like, I can't read it. We now know it must be. Well, wait. Can they read a druid? So what about a druid? Would they?
They cannot read that. So that's.
So they still don't know.
So if you have all four of the main spellcasters, magic user, cleric, illusionist, druid, based on the probability of scroll distribution, which you see at the bottom of the page, if you wanted to determine what it is, you'd start with the cleric. The cleric go, that's not it. Then if you look here, the percentage chance for druid versus 25% of all cleric scrolls would be druidical, 10% of all magic users. So you're basically saying 25%, 7.5, and 7% of 7% of all scrolls will be illusionist, 7.5% of all scrolls will be druidical, based on this chart.
You're good.
Yeah, roughly. So it's basically the cleric looks at it first, goes, then he sees the druid and the illusion, says, okay, you guys look it over, it doesn't matter, the probability is the same. If they all can't see it and it's magical, it's either a treasure map that's been encrypted, which needs read magic, or it's a magic user spell, which needs read magic. So here you go, magic user, you need to go read magic.
So when you hand it to the magic user, what do you say? So the cleric can't read it. Let's just say you have a cleric and a magic user, you don't have a subclass. And the cleric can't read it and hands it over to the magic user. And the magic user is just going to peruse it, is not going to cast read magic on it. What is the magic?
He's not doing anything, he's just putting it in his backpack.
So you don't tell, because a lot of times what players will say is, well, do I get a sense that does it look magic usery?
Nope.
You know, you're like...
It's incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible. You have no idea. Got it. I think that makes sense to me.
Right.
All right.
And then there's a big, it's too bad, it's sad, and then they put it away and they have to remember later to get home. That's part of the downtime thing, or when they get back to the adventure. The problem is, of course, this is, again, if you've written a module, Dungeon Masters, if you've written a module, you have a scroll of something that's a key to help with the adventure, unless it's a scroll that they know, or a spell that they've gotten from someone they know, or they made it themselves, they would not be able to read until read magic. So you could have this scenario, as Dan was saying, you have a magic scroll with magic writing. They're in the dungeon. The magic user hasn't prepared read magic. They can't read the scroll.
Right.
And they're not going to stop. Most players are not going to sit here and go, we'll just keep going. Well, I'm not going to burn one of my magic missiles and learn read magic. We're not going to do that. We're just going to keep going. So do not put that in your adventure unless you're prepared. Put it in plain English, whatever you want, or plain common, excuse me, whatever it is. So these are some of the mechanics that we sometimes hand wave, but as rules is written, that's how it would be.
Shall we turn the page on this subject?
Well, no, you didn't talk about the fading.
Oh, you're right.
Which
I love this fading one.
I listened to our podcast last week, which I thought was exceptional. The passing of the pearl and some other things. I mean, they're legendary. when we look back to 30 years from now and we talk about how pearls can be passed and collected by apprentices, that's going to be a highlight of our career.
But you are right. But really, one of the flaws is, I mean, you are right that you do need so many people because it's so time-consuming, exhausting.
Yeah.
You really do need like a whole army.
Right. Okay. Cast of thousands. So you had said, and this is where, unfortunately, this Dan, who has been my friend now for a couple of years, he was enthusiastic of first edition, the nostalgia, the thing of this is almost a holy works of this is a trinity of works, and it's very concise, and it's just it may be inscrutable and sometimes, but it's only because we haven't put the effort to try to figure it out. And so whatever last vestiges of that, Dan, came out last week, because well, there's got to be, I like to think, I'm paraphrasing, I'd like to think there's some rationale behind this. There's a reason, why this is so convoluted. Well, but basically, you're going to read what the rationale is, which is, go ahead. What the rationale behind making magic items and their identification so difficult? Go ahead.
Okay, so the fading one, right?
Yes.
So scrolls not read to determine contents immediately. Yeah, because this is now everything we just talked about. Like what you said is just happening.
Right.
Is now it's going to be problematic. Scrolls not read to determine contents immediately are from 5% to 30% likely to fade. It is your option to set the percentage or use a die 6 to randomly determine it for each scroll. Number one, I don't understand why you would randomly determine 5 to 30%. I don't know why you don't just give it's weird to have two rolls. You roll for the percentage, then you roll the percentage. Why don't you just have one number?
The only way to read that and be honest is that the whole purpose of all these rules is to make sure cursed items have an opportunity to work in your world. That's the only reason you make identify painful. It's the only reason you make scroll fading, because you want them to, when they get the item, they have to do something with it right away, and they get the effects of the cursed item.
So
that's the only reason.
So all right. So now let's amend our discussion.
Which means he's a troll job. It's a complete. There is no rationale. It is basically, that's the style of play that is, we're sitting around the table. You got the cool whatever, and everyone's like, oh, it makes sense. The magic should get the scroll. Oh, he's teleported 800 miles away.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And wasn't that a great game? That's the only thing that makes sense.
Oh, because that's what it has. So if it's a teleport, why would you be teleported?
Well, because they're cursed scrolls. When you go to cursed scrolls,
yeah, the minute you start to
yeah. So when you go back on scrolls in page 121, 121, it tells you how the cursed scrolls work.
Oh.
See, so you look, and it says, it has incumbent upon the Dungeon Master to do his utmost to convince players that a cursed scroll should be real. This can be accomplished through duplicity, coercion, or threat. So going back to whatever last vestiges of, well, there must be a reason. Yes, the reason is to make bad things happen to your players. Any scroll not read has a chance of fading in normal air, but this can be noted by the archaic wording, if read.
Yeah, I was just reading that.
Still the dungeon.
Can we talk about that? Because I was just reading about that. Because I think what it's saying, because I was wondering what makes a scroll fade, right? And so assuming you take it out of the cylinder.
Yep.
And the first thing is, well, it's the air that does normal air. Any scroll not read has a chance of fading in normal air. So it's almost like it's got to be hermetically, is that
sealed,
the right word? Sealed?
Yeah. Like with the wax, you seal with the wax.
Right. And so the minute you open it up, it's like, I don't know, it's like, opening up any can of food or something, right?
Yeah.
It's going to start, it's
like
going to have an expiration date.
Yeah, exactly.
So the minute you open it up. But I think what Gygax was saying here is, well, people are going to say, oh, wait, this is not, we're in a dungeon. The air it's going to be slower. And so he seems to be recognizing that and saying, well, this can be noted by the archaic wording if read in the still dungeon atmosphere. So is that the fact that you have archaic wording and it's a still dungeon atmosphere means it's still going to fade?
Yeah, any scroll not read has a chance of fading in normal air, but this can be noted by the archaic wording if read in the still dungeon atmosphere.
So, I guess it really doesn't matter what that means. It's going to fade. He's making it clear, even in a dungeon atmosphere, it's going to fade.
If you open it. Well, this is the example that he's using to threaten people to have them to do it.
Well, so this can be accomplished through duplicity, coercion, or threat, i.e., any scroll not read as chance fade normal error. But this can be noted. So in other words, is this to how you tell the players this?
Right.
But this can be noted by the archaic wording if read in the still dungeon. I don't understand that clause very well. Is this like a warning? Is it the archaic wording telling you it's going to fade?
No,
Is he saying it's going to fade? The archaic wording will fade in still dungeon error?
I think the only rationale, not the only, my interpretation of that is you have broken the seal.
Right.
Because you're
going to hear a noise. You hear that noise? You're like the pickle jar opening?
You pop it open, and if you decide not right then and there to read it, you have that. You've allowed the air to fade. It's like an ancient, thing from a tomb. The ultraviolet lights are going to start destroying it. Everything else. So you must take action.
So
it's again a troll job to make you read the scroll.
Yeah, but you know what? If you think about it, that makes sense, and let me tell you why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Because let's think about how scrolls are prepared and why. They're prepared by. I assume they're prepared by magic users. I assume to sell. Is that right? I mean, would they be sold? If you're a magic user, you know the spell.
Someone just tried to call the grog line.
Would you have your phone? You had it on silent? You mean this finally happened and you had it on silent? Think it went right to voicemail? Hey, this is the grog line. We're busy. We're not available right now.
That's hilarious.
Please leave a message. We're with another customer.
That's right. We're not available right now.
You totally
All right.
blew it. Our one chance.
Here we go. We'll call him back.
Maybe it was Eric Bentley, who was the prior owner of my Fiend Folio. I have his number, but I don't have an area code.
All right. Well,
it was the era before. See, when you're young, you don't think you need an area code because you're going to lose it locally.
I have one bar in my own house. What does that say? Thank you, carrier.
Engineer carriers.
This is compelling podcast. Right?
This is John.
Hey, John. Welcome to GROGTALK. How are you?
Oh, did I actually finally get through?
You did, yes. You were. The operators were busy. I'm sorry. We apologize.
You mean you've been trying?
I thought it was that snooty producer of yours again with all those screener questions. That she keeps blocking me and all.
Oh yeah, she's.
Exclusive show.
Yeah, Nicholas is like that. So, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. How are you guys? It's very early in the morning. I can't believe you guys do this early.
We are.
I'm like second and a half cup of coffee, but I think I can function.
Wait, this isn't John from our group, is it?
Oh, I would say it is.
This is John. This is you, John. I'm so excited.
This is a long-time fan of the Grog Show.
Yes.
And sometimes I host listening parties and everything like that.
See?
I finally got the nerve. They all pressured me to call the line, and I finally got through. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. How have you been, John?
I'm fine. So
We're talking about scrolls.
11 o'clock this morning,
Yep.
and James, you played last night, and you're playing again tonight.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a long weekend of D&D.
The spouse is away. The other spouse will play, and I'm probably going to play with Dan, and then I'm coming to your game, which I'm looking forward to. I missed last time, and
Oh my good.
and I have to bring the battle map, which we're having. So scrolls. We're talking about scrolls. What's your thoughts on scrolls since you've called the line?
Well, okay. I have a question.
Okay.
Guys, since you guys have all the details, and my DM style, I'm a purist. I like to do things strict by the book and that kind of thing. I was listening scrolls for different classes, like magic user. Let's do magic user and illusion. I just heard one of you say something about like druids can't read cleric scrolls. Was that you, James, that said that?
That's correct.
That was James.
Oh, okay.
Throwing under the
Now,
bus.
what about magic users and illusionists? Because this came up in our game not too long ago.
Oh.
Can illusionists read magic user scrolls if the spell is the same?
Well, that's what we were just talking about, John. So thank you. So to recap, in the player's handbook, it says the illusionist scrolls and magic user scrolls, which contain.
Yeah, it's page 26. Illusionist scrolls and magic user scrolls, which contain spells usable by illusionists. That's one of the items that can be used by illusionists.
And it talks about illusionist scrolls having a kind of a common illusionary script that is consistent, which also makes sense, which is why they don't have Read Illusionist Magic up until the book that will be named from 1985. So the challenge is magic user scrolls require Read Magic. Illusionists do not have Read Magic, and if it was in a common script, that doesn't make any sense because it talks about basically each magic user has to learn their version of that. So what we decided, now whether you want to do this in your campaign, is that a 14th level magic user can learn first level magic user spells. They can take as one of their 7th level spells, they can cast a first level magic user spell. So for me, they have to be a 14th level magic user. They have to learn magic user Read Magic, and then they can read a magic user spell, a scroll, which then allows them to cast an illusionist scroll. There you go. If that's not first edition, I don't know what is. That's what we came up with.
Hold on, let me go to
Can our fans hear this? Hang on.
Yeah, they can hear it.
They can hear him, you think?
Yes, they can.
Oh.
They can hear that, but
Let me see.
I'll put it closer.
No.
Is Read Magic? Let me look. I'm opening up the spell book right now. Is Read Magic?
You have a spell book? Awesome.
Part of that. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm very offended. Where is that? Oh, here it is. Read Magic. You see, this is. Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay. So it's specifically listed on page 100.
That's right.
Read Magic. So
Correct.
yeah, I guess after you untangle all that and go through that, I think that does sound like the most. That does sound like the answer.
It's horrible.
The illusionist. Yeah, the illusionist have to take Read Magic as a 14th level illusionist, and then he could go back and use Read Magic on magic user scrolls that he finds.
Right. At least that is
That's not happening until 14.
as much of the book. Or the illusionist could get and scroll from a 14th level illusionist, which is the 7th level spell, first level magic user, which could be Read Magic, written in illusionist spell that they could cast with an opportunity of Spell Fairy, which you haven't gotten to yet, and they could do it that way. That would be the other chance. So you understand our
that
logic.
would be just a one, right? That would just, and that's interesting what you just said. But they wouldn't be able to scribe Read Magic at first level or whatever if a 14th level illusionist gave them a scroll for that. Though
Correct.
that would just be a one-shot thing, though, wouldn't it?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
So-
All right. Yeah, because my illusionist in Dan's campaign found, some magic user scrolls with that had the same spells as illusionists get, and we were trying to figure out, can my illusionist scribe these? Can she cast them? But I guess the answer is no. All right.
If they have, if we're using the logic that they're incomprehensible to any other class, regardless, and that Read Magic is the only way to read them, and illusionists do not have that access to it, and that because again, if it was in a common script, then the magic user should be able to read it. So that's how I would rule that, or just ban illusionists.
Right.
But you guys like illusionists, so I think we'll keep them. Well, John, thank you for that.
I like that.
I appreciate that. Well, I look
no
forward.
problem.
I look forward to tonight's game. And is there anything else I need to bring besides the battle mat, or anything else that I can help you with?
No, that should be it.
All right. Well,
And yeah,
we'll
conclude the adventure. That adventure tonight.
excellent. Well, like I said, appreciate the call, and that was a great question, and we love to hear you. And
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I thought I was supposed to get a prize or something like that.
Well, you are. Unfortunately, last week we had a texter from Australia who was the first one to come in. But with that said, you will be our domestic prize winner. Yes, you will win a prize as well. So I will pick out.
Wait a minute. They could get a prize just for texting.
I knew that was coming. See, that's why you said that really fast and just kept moving on quickly, hoping he wouldn't pick up on that.
He texted multiple times last week. It wasn't just one. It was his in-depth conversation.
But that doesn't change that it was a text, that it was multiple. The fact that it was multiple times. Why am I hurting our cause? We are on the same team, aren't we?
Well, I think the reason you're not on my side is because I'm giving away my
That's
stuff.
right. What do I care?
Right. You know, John, as a loyal listener and a friend of both GROGTALK and the Grognards Guild, we will waive that, and we will stick to the spirit of it, which is the first caller. So you will win a prize as well. Absolutely.
But you know what's interesting about it is, you know,
What is it? One of the prizes. Something gets to be named after one of my characters or something like that. I remember hearing something like that. What was that all about?
Well, you know what? You can we can talk about that, and we will come up with some ideas, and you get to pick what that is. If that's what you'd like, whether you want because we're writing a module for GrogCon, maybe you want one of your characters named that. We can have a number of options. So you think about it. You don't have to claim your prize right now.
Let's make Jezebel famous. Let's make her.
Yeah,
let's put her name in lights.
Okay.
I have a good idea. I think it's a good idea anyway. We could have something called Jezebel's Corner, and it would be just like a 2-minute discussion of illusionists.
Oh, okay. There you go.
What do you think? Jezebel's Corner?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, but
You seem less than enthusiastic.
yeah, that can't be a weekly thing.
Why not? If it's like a minute,
It'd be 2 minutes of silence.
we go through
then.
each spell.
You said what was good about illusionists, or
Bad.
Oh, okay.
It's just about Jezebel's Corner.
All right.
And now, Jezebel's Corner.
All right. Well, you decide that, John. I'll let you kind of think about that. We'll either put Jezebel in one of our modules, because I think you may have heard in previous podcasts that Dan's his name is famous because you were in one of the modules, right?
I don't know if I made it into print. My name was used during the adventure as an NPC.
Yeah, we would actually put Jezebel's character as an NPC.
Well, you know what the problem with Jezebel's Corner is? Nobody puts Jezebel in a corner.
That's right. No one puts Jezebel in the corner. Exactly. Well, sir,
Absolutely not.
sir, enjoy your coffee. I will. We've got to finish up here on the thing, but we would love to have you a host. I know it's a little early, so we may have to do like an evening grog.
Yeah,
Grog Talk
I'm not a morning person. I'm definitely a night owl.
Grog Talk Under Dark.
I'm telling myself I need to call in one of these mornings, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's Saturday. I think the guys are doing the show. So
Absolutely.
I jumped on YouTube and I saw you were live and called that infamous grog line.
Yeah, and then it went right. So many people were calling that it slammed our
And then
line.
it went right. Yeah. I called in and then I got screened. I got screened out. So
Yeah.
well, okay, we'll off for the course.
Well, that is we've got to work on our customer service. I will have a team meeting after that and talk to my production staff. So,
Yeah.
John, have a great morning.
Your fans demand it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you use plural. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, we'll talk to you later. We'll see you tonight.
All right. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
All right. So I am bankrupt. I'm going to be bankrupt here. I got gifts I got to work on. So,
I know why. Okay, the fading rule.
yes.
Okay, so look, if I'm a magic user, why am I writing a scroll?
To have additional capabilities wherever I am.
Don't I? But to write the scroll, I need to be able to cast the spell.
Yes.
So it's in my spell. Oh, so it's like it's like a little travel pack.
No, it's to.
So I don't have to carry my.
So, a perfect example would be your 5th level. We have to decide what level spellcaster you can be to do this. We need to get going. We're not going to do artifacts. We're already at 9/11, and we're still.
Right.
We haven't. Obviously, there's a lot more to scrolls. I'm a 7th level magic user. That means I can cast 4, 3, 2, 1. 4 first level spells, 3 second, 2 third, 1 fourth. So 2 spells. Let's say I have my spell book. I have Fireball, Lightning Bolt, and Haste. Well, I could either only memorize 2 of them, or I could write a scroll of that. And now I carry 3 around. Or if I have a great nice DM, and let's say we have a month off. Well, I spend that whole month writing Fireball scrolls, which basically it's a day per level, if I remember correctly in fabrication. So I could have 7 scrolls of Fireball, or 1 scroll with 7 Fireball scrolls on it. So now when I'm walking around the dungeon, I have extra firepower. That's the idea.
Got it. So then if you think about that, in some respects, it would make sense. Some of these rules, like the fading rule, makes sense. So if you're writing the scroll for you to use, and you know when you're going to, right, perhaps. So you would, I guess, if you write, do you need read magic for your own scroll?
No.
Okay. So.
Well, that's the way I read. I'm not. Yes, you do not for your own writing.
So you don't care about the fading rule because you're going to open up that scroll when you need to. You know what's in there. You wrote it.
Right.
You've written Fireball.
Yep.
And a Sharpie on it. And so you know that you're going to use it immediately when you open it. So doesn't that sort of make sense? I mean, people don't just lay scrolls around like Easter eggs. Yeah. Like, oh, let me litter this dungeon with scrolls. How does the scroll even get there, right? Somebody was being chased by the ogre, and it pops out of the backpack and goes rolling into a corner.
Yeah.
Right? And so it makes sense that it would fade. And so players need to realize that scrolls are not there as Easter eggs to be found. They happen to be there because somebody brought it into the dungeon to use it, and there it lays.
Yeah, no. I think it makes sense as far as if it's an ancient scroll that has deteriorated, like it's from the Egyptian time period, and by having the modern air hit it, that it could fade. That sort of kind of makes sense. But then why is reading it then preserving the magic incantation? So warranted, what you said makes sense if it's going to fade regardless. But if I've read it now, like, oh, it's a scroll of cure light wounds, why does now by me reading it preserve it? It almost, if you're going to say that, then basically opening it, it needs the human intervention by rereading it to allow it to maintain. That's like somehow the scroll is bound to the person who wrote it, and they've been dead for so long, but somehow this magical scroll keeps it hermetically sealed, and it starts fading it, and then the new person, once they've read it, it breathes back life. I don't know. It seems really
I agree with that.
I mean, the fading rule makes sense if it's consistent, whether you read it or not. If you open it, it has a born-on date. You have to use a scroll within 2 weeks of opening the scroll. That would make perfect sense because it will fade over time. It's like buying a gallon of milk. As soon as you buy it, you have 2 weeks to use it.
I agree. That doesn't make a lot of sense that you read it and now it doesn't fade.
Right. That part doesn't make any sense. But that's why most people ignore that, because it's not difficult to get a magic user or someone to read the spell. They're all going to read it. The cursing, I don't think people for the most part have stopped from that. But if you do read a cursed scroll on page 121, here's what things that can happen to you, which you would think, I'm not sure the players really know the effects. So you have a table on 121, you get polymorph into a level equal which of any creature nearby, or which attacks any creature nearby.
That's hilarious.
Or you get turned into liquid and drain away.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's a good one.
So
that's how I want to go.
Right. Reader and all within 20-foot radius are transported 2 to 1,200 miles in a random direction. So that's an exciting one, right? You're running a production. You're running a dungeon, or adventure out of Dragon. It has a curse scroll. I don't know if it does. And you just like, oh, it's a curse scroll. They read it, you roll it, and now you have to figure out the new adventure because now they've traveled 600 miles away. So all those advice we gave you, start with a small town somewhere. Congratulations, DM. Now you have to figure out what your party's going to do when they switch. If you're an experienced DM, that works great. If you're not, so sad, too bad. Even better, you, reader, and all within 20-foot radius transport to another planet, plane, or continuum. Disease fatal.
That's great.
In an hour. Explosive ruins. Magic item nearby is demagnetized. Okay. Or randomly rolled spell effect reader as 12th level of magic user.
Those are great.
Right. These are examples. You could come up with your own. But
why would you want to?
Right. Those are perfect.
Those can't be improved upon.
Right. So, again, the point is, haha, a lot of fun, shenanigans. Sorry, you greedy magic user, you read it, and now... So the poor cleric is drained away. Your only healing is now dripping into the bucket.
So wait, so what do you do? How do you avoid a cursed scroll?
You can't. Read above. This is to be accomplished through duplicity, coercion, and threat. It is incumbent on DM to make his utmost to convince players that a cursed scroll...
They're going to read it at some point.
Right.
Right?
Well, this goes back to Saul from Passing Pearl. Here's a scroll. Figure out what it is.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Now you know why...
Oh, my gosh.
500 gold pieces is not enough.
Wow. That's right. Identify on a scroll has got to be even higher. Without question.
Or read magic. Ooh, I don't know what this is, Matt, because... if you're a smart party, you'd be like, ooh, we don't have a magic user. Saul, while you're identifying losing 8 points of constitution for
right.
this,
So it's not identified. To read magic. Oh, right. Yeah. He also does read magic, of course.
Right. Here, tell us what this is.
And then he hands you a scroll.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be back. Oh, hold on. You take the tape measure out and make sure you're 20 feet away from him.
That's a lot of money I'm charging you.
Right.
A lot.
But then, of course, you always have the situation that it could be a very powerful spell, and he goes, oh, it's a spell of magic missile. I'll give you 50 gold pieces, when it's actually a spell of wish.
So it was like the average length of time of magic users that are doing this, kind of like the average lifespan of, what, like a World War I pilot or something,
World
like 2
War II
weeks.
tail gunner or something.
Yeah, 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, exactly. Not too long. Well, you know, that's a lesson to you magic users out there. Do not be a C student in magic user school.
Yeah, you want to be the one handing the scroll over to the guy to read magic.
You want to be the wizard who hands over to Saul the prestidigitator.
You know, right, that's right. All right, we better talk about spell levels of scrolls, because this is confusing.
Well,
right?
And again, scrolls can be 1 spell, 2 spells, up to 7 spells. And then there are protection scrolls. There are scrolls that everyone can read, which again, we kind of went over quickly, which are protection scrolls. So we talked about curse scrolls, which in theory anyone could read. But again, why would you hand a scroll to anyone? Now, again, some fighters feel like they want to read it because they know that protection scrolls are usable by any person. So protection scrolls, examples are protection.
So let me just ask you a quick. So you believe that a curse scroll can be read by anybody?
Correct.
So you don't think it's like so it's not written in a magic. It's just a curse. So you don't need to cast a. What do you cast to read magic on it?
No, you just pick it, because the idea, the way I perceive it as, it's just like this book. If this book was it's in English, but I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
As soon as I look at the symbols, it discharges.
Wow.
Even though I have no idea what it is. As soon as I open the page, even though I'm viewing the symbols, the magic is triggered because of a human reading it. That's what I read it as. It's incomprehensible death.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
That's a great thing, incomprehensible death.
I saw them.
Who did they open up for? Venom or death?
I think it was Destruction. I saw them, I think, in Berlin, I think, in 82, I think.
Yeah.
They were a Swedish band.
They are Swedish.
Yeah.
Are they part of the Swedish death metal or American death metal transport over there, or New Core? I'm not sure which.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Correct.
Come on, that should be incomprehensible death. Awesome. Mm-hmm.
I like
that segment, incomprehensible death, because that would be good for.
That could be right after Jezebel's Corner.
Jezebel's Corner.
That'd be incomprehensible.
Incomprehensible.
Ways to die.
Why did I die? Why did I die?
Dan, why did you kill Jezebel? Did Jezebel die? No, Jezebel retired. Oh, she's an NPC in your adventure.
That's right, she retired.
With a crystal ball.
That's right, she's doing great. Mm-hmm. She's having a good time. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
God, we're segueing.
Okay.
So what's the next thing?
Level of spells. So spells are written at different levels.
Right, so here's some, I don't say controversy. So you have on page 129, spell level of scrolls, which talks about it. All scroll spells are assumed to be written to make it easy and quick as possible for the writer. Thus, the level of spell, its characteristics with respect to range, duration, area of effect, where level is a factor, is typically but 1 level higher than that is required to actually use the spell, but never below 6th level of experience. Thus, a 6th level magic user spells written at 13th level of ability, 7th level, 15th, etc. A scroll fireball lightning bolt spell is of 6 dice. Okay?
Well, can we explain how this would work then? So, let's say that it is a level, let's start easy.
Right.
It is a read magic.
Read magic,
So, which would be funny, because you use a read magic to learn it's a read magic.
Right.
So, that is a level 1 spell.
Right.
So, a magic user can cast that at level 1.
That's right.
So, that means it is written at what level? Let's say 1 level higher than required to actually use it. So, that would mean it would generally be written. I mean, I know this only matters,
Well, it says never below 6th level of experience.
Right, so it would be, with the +1, it would be 2, but it gets bumped up to 6. And of course, this only matters, I assume, for spells where level matters, right? That the duration or the range is adjusted.
Most spells have some level component.
Okay, so
because the duration typically is level dependent.
So if it's a 3rd level spell, you would look at what level, you probably know this because you know these tables pretty well, what level spellcaster.
You have to be 5th level.
So then it would be +1.
6.
And that meets
which is the minimum.
Which is a minimum. So it really only becomes an issue then for, at least for magic users, at 4th level, if it spells at 4th level.
Right, well, 4th level, then you become a 7th, you have to be 7th level magic user, which means, in theory, if you don't, the idea is you get a scroll from a prepackaged module. It says it has a cone of Ice Storm. Ice Storm is a 4th level spell. Mm-hmm. You don't know what level it's cast at. You as the dungeon master can say it's casted at 8th level as on an average.
Okay.
But if you know your magic user wrote it, well, then it's written at the level of the person who did it. They're not going to adjust it. It's written at the level that they wrote it.
But where does it say? Is that true? Oh, there's a whole thing on creating scrolls, right? Is that where that is? Because that's not in the spell level of scroll spells, right? It says it's typically one level higher than required to actually. So you read that as just sort of a default.
Right. Well, all scroll spells are assumed to be written as to be easy and quick as possible for the writer. Well, if the writer is that, they would not be, you don't have the ability to power. Well, there's no rule to say I want to cast this magic missile spell as a first level magic user. You cast it as the level that you are. There is no throttling down it. So you would write it at the level that you're at.
Okay, so you see this as just, and you said that because there is a discussion about manufacturing.
Yeah, we're going to get to that next. That's
right, the 117 and 118.
117. But because here this is I read this in the context of you have randomly rolled for treasure, and you rolled up a scroll of 3 spells.
Mm-hmm.
And you figure out the level of the spell. It's a 3rd level spell. What level was it cast at? That's what this paragraph is about. This is not about. The person creating their own spells.
Okay, this says scrolls may be inscribed on 117.
You're getting this to the next part.
Only by characters of 7th
level. There you go. That's what.
But this says
you're stealing my thunder, Dan.
Yeah, we'll probably have to do another 7 minutes. So okay, so that's the initial. So there's initial contract. Oh, and then shall we bring in the player's handbook?
Yes.
The player's handbook says that in general, scroll spells will be 12th level as regards to range and duration. So we've got a 12th.
Right.
A 7, a 6.
That's right. But in order of precedence, right, the player's handbook was first.
So we throw that out.
So this would be more canonical because it's later.
Right.
Right. It says 7th and 6th, and also it talks about specifically fireball and magic and lightning bolts. So you have a couple of options here. You can ignore this. You can ignore the 7th level. Scrolls may inscribe only by characters of 7th or higher level.
Right.
Or you can accept that and say only the only exception is fireball and lightning bolt or 6 hit dice. That's the only exception.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So that's seems to me a reasonable way to.
Or the third option is you can just say, yeah, you know what? Only magic use can do 6th level. The rest of them could be 7th level. You could read this on page 117. Scrolls may be scribed by character 7th level, but except for magic users because we say it separately. But that's different.
Okay. Is there anything else in the manufacturer scrolls that's particularly relevant to using scrolls?
Well, the thing is, it's very complicated. If you're going to do it the right way, because again, so let's say you've decided in your campaign you're going to allow 6th level magic user 6th level magic users to inscribe fireball and lightning bolt based on this page on page 1.
Right. No.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
127.
128.
128.
Because it says, well, it's 6 hit dice.
Right, which is confusing. A scroll fired by lightning bolt is of 6 dice in most cases.
Right. So you allow that. So then they come to you and go, oh, great, I want to write it. Well, then you would then have to go, okay, great. You have to go to page 117. We must come up with a recipe for your ink. You must go get the components for it. So they give an example of a petrification spell. It needs a giant squid sepia, basilic eye, 3 cockatrice feathers, some venom, blah, 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 holy water, pumpkin seeds, and it talks about how it must be produced in the midnight, blah, blah, blah. And again, if you have players who are interested in this is great. It's a lot of flavor. It makes them feel like magic users. If you have players like mine, they roll their eyes and they go, you've got to be kidding. Just tell me how many days it's going to take, how much it's going to cost.
Right.
So this, again, is an area that you have to... The key thing is preparation requires 1 full day of each level of the spell being scribed. So if you have a magic user who wants to do it, it's going to cost a lot of money, certainly hundreds of gold pieces, and it's going to take 1 day per level of the spell. So if they're making a scroll of 7 spells, each of 3rd level, that would take 21 days to do.
Okay.
and
Okay.
and a lot of money, and they have to have they have to make all the items necessary in that, and so you certainly would want it to cost as much, or definitely a multiple more than the cost of casting a spell normally. So if like for instance identify, when we were talking about last week, the pearl's 100 gold pieces. That I would say would have to be crushed into the ink with the carp and
Right.
with the owl with the wine infused, and that has to be made and pinned into the identify scroll. So it should be very expensive to create an identify scroll.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not very familiar with that, because that's getting pretty high level. I mean, if you've got a magic user who's writing
Sixth
a
level,
scroll,
6th or 7th level.
that's high to me. Well, not that high. That's high.
I have magic users who could do that, and that's what they want to do. They want. That's why That's why they're not happy with my campaign, because I put a time limit. There's an apocalyptic event that's going to happen, and they know they have to get done at a certain time, and they're frustrated because they want to run back and spend 2 months writing scrolls.
Oh, right, because so they're going in there, so they want to go into the backpack of scrolls.
Right, and potions and scrolls and
right.
Prepare super weapons. They want to totally power up. And
so that's what like a big battle would be, I guess, in D&D, is you've got like the magic users, like if you're preparing for months,
right.
The magic users are feverishly writing scrolls, right? And they're all going in there and they're whipping out their scrolls.
Right.
And
well, that's the idea. It's like
potions,
basically, if we were going to industrialize magic, you're a 12th level wizard, right? You have apprentices. That's literally all they would be doing. They'd be writing scrolls, making magic items, just producing.
Oh, that's right. So that's what could happen to you. So you could study. That's probably what a lot of magic users do, because adventuring is very dangerous,
right,
and risky. So you spend your time. You're just you're hired out. You're at it's like a big law firm or something like that, right? The big magic user firm.
Exactly.
I'm an associate at whatever, at Gandalf and Associates.
Yeah, you've decided you're not cut out for adventuring. You went on the first level. You got assaulted by a scythe. All these other bad things have happened. You're like, this is not for me. You join. You are going to be altruistic. You're not changing the world.
Or you just know you're not very good. Like,
right.
You're never going to get past first level. You're right.
Well, you have to be 6th level to cast scrolls.
Oh, that's right. You can't be working at that place unless you're pretty. No, that's right. Oh, I get it now. This is retirement.
Right.
You've worked hard. You've got 6th level.
Adventuring's a young man's game.
You're right. You survived.
Right.
And I'm going into the firm. I become an associate.
And you want to become a junior partner, or a partner at some point. You join the firm, and it's led by maybe an archmage or something.
But the sooner you stop adventuring, the less money you're going to be paid, because you can only do scrolls of a certain kind.
Right.
So like the Gandalfs of the world. Oh boy, they retire, and they're just bringing in the money.
They're fat cats, yeah, and they're only taking the biggest cases.
Oh, clearly.
Right, they're only dealing with, you need a scroll of wish. Well,
no one's going to pay Gandalf to do a read magic.
Right,
scroll.
But that's the funny part. Go back to identify, because so they have this powerful magic user in their tower at the town, and they want him to cast identify. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time casting identify. I'm 14th level. I don't have time for your shenanigans.
Get out of here.
Right, it's going to cost you 20,000 gold pieces. Now they have 20,000. But he's not going to take 8 points of con off for a day and be wrecked for a day. 20,000 is irrelevant to him. It's
right.
If you a 14th level magic user looking at experience points, right? Just roughly is how much experience points has he collected? Oh, I don't know, 1.5 million experience points. So he's probably banked 1 million experience points. Why is he going to do that? And, the players are always like, oh, this is so annoying. Why he won't do it? Well, I don't see you, volunteering. It's almost like a charity case. He's not going down to the soup kit, down to doing a pro bono Pass the Pearl event for poor struggling adventurers for social justice. That's not what he's doing. He's not 14th level for a reason, not for a reason. So I totally get it. But yes, that's the idea. That's what they all want to do. They want to set up all these player characters. Want to set up mines where they have dwarven miners mining for gems. That's one guy's doing that. Another guy's got his wizard factory. Another one has a cleric factory producing holy water and scrolls. The druid is, taking mistletoe and making whatever cudgels and everything. Yeah, they want to industrialize. They are the Saruman of the world. That's why most parties are evil, because they just want to industrialize the world.
Well, at least you're not bitter.
No, I'm not bitter. I just say no. You're not going to do that. But that is the argument for the magic shop. Because if they're going to do all that, just give them a magic shop. That's what they really want. They just want a place. They want to look up the list and buy and sell whatever they want. They want a bazaar. They want an auction house.
Right. They really want to. They want a business. They want a game about business.
Yeah, M-Bay, Magic Bay. You put your item on. You take some pictures. You scroll. Have a limner make a figurine.
Yeah, man. Have you seen? There's a +1 sword, but man, they're asking for like 500 gold pieces. They're crazy. The eBay prices are crazy.
Have you looked at the last 30 days of swords? It's trending down.
And the amount of shipping that they want for that +1 sword,
handling.
ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Exactly. That's what they want. They want modern convenience.
And then I got that sword and it was damaged.
Right. And then how do you get it back? There's no guarantee. You're going to go back to that archway, the 14th level. Hey, this sword sucks. It's damaged.
I'm telling eBay. I'm going to give them a bad rating.
Yeah, and then you're going to be turned to liquid.
Now the good news is, how am I doing? I need to do I need to be at a game?
Yeah, you got to get there soon.
Okay, I can cast the nice thing about scrolls is if I'm a magic user or anything else, right? And its spell is beyond my abilities, I can use it. I can but there is so that's the nice thing. So the first level magic user finds a fireball spell.
Right.
He can try to cast that baby, right?
That's the good news.
The bad news is
the bad news
is there's a chance of spell failure.
Right. So it says on page 128, if a spell user acquires a spell with a spell of level not yet usable by a character, the spell user may still attempt to use the spell. The chance of failure or other bad effect is 5% per level difference between the character present level and the level of magic use at which the spell could be cast. For example, a first level magic user finds a wish spell, which is okay, and the chance of failure is 85% because you have to be 18th level to cast it normally. Your first level, that's 17 levels times 5, 85%. Dice roll applied, and any score of 85 or less indicates failure of some sort. And then, so basically, depending on the level of difference, you either have a total failure or reverse or harmful effect. So in that scenario, they have a 30% chance of failure, 70% chance of reversal or harmful effect. So, we, in the game you first started, some of the old adventurers gave out these ridiculously powerful spells. And everyone's looking, and I was the magic user, like, oh, use that limited wish. I'm like, I'm first level. For limited wishes, 14th level spell. That means I have a 50% chance of failure and a 50% chance of reverse or harmful effect. No thanks.
Nice. Yeah.
Assuming that I get it off, which would be a 75% chance. So, but what's interesting is it's still. So what's good about this is this. The way I read this is, so in this case, if you had a 14th level magic user who casts Fireball, which would be a 14th level Fireball, and I'm a 4th level magic user, I don't only have a 5% chance of failure because it's not the level it was cast at by the caster, it's the level you need to cast the spell.
Right.
So that's the other advantage too. You could find spells that are more powerful. Again, a 14th level Fireball is way better than a Fireball cast by a 14th level magic user is way better than a Fireball cast by a 5th level magic user. So there's another opportunity. That's why you have to figure out what the level of casting of the spell is. But unfortunately, again, you can read these a bunch of ways, but that's what I've allowed. That's why I allow it to do. I don't say that the failure is based on the level. Though you could have read somewhere here. It says just above it, but as the DM, you may decide, and I decide not to make certain scrolls more powerful by increasing the level at which they are written. However, this will certainly affect the chance of spell failures given below.
That doesn't make, I thought.
Right, so it doesn't
make sense because it's saying it's the level of the spell itself, not at which it's written.
Right, so I ignore it. It says you may, and I say no. But you could be a jerk and say, yes, it actually is at the level it's cast at.
The character's present level and the level of magic use at which the spell could be used.
Right. That's very clear. The thing above it is a may. You may decide. So you could be a jerk if you wanted to.
Oh, by increasing the level at which they are written. Yeah, but the may is you may decide that certain scroll spells are more powerful by increasing the level at which they are written. However, all right.
And which makes sense that it should be more powerful. Meaning, again, a 14th level magic user. It makes no sense that they would dumb down the spell to 6th level. They would. Because the idea is they would use it for themselves. Why would I write a 6th level Fireball, 6 hit dice?
It sounds like it is something. That first sentence always confused me. All scroll spells are assumed to be written so as to make it easy and quick as possible for the writer. Thus, the level of the spell, blah, 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 is but one level. It sounds like they want it to be quick and easy, to make it as easy and quick as possible for the writer. Is that writing it or casting it?
Yeah,
So in other words, is it harder to write at 14 levels? Is it longer?
I don't know. I've never seen that, because here it says 1 full day for each level of the spell being written, not the level of the caster. So what first level spell takes 1 day, second 2. Time is so spent must be continuous without interruption, except for only for rest, food, and sleep and the like. So no, I didn't. The way I've adjudicated that is there's an advantage to using a higher level casted spell, because, but typically it's a moot point because you're rolling these randomly. You don't know the magic user who's doing it, and you're assuming the fireball that they found in the temple or whatever in the treasure is 1 level higher than necessary.
Okay.
So
I think
that's we adjudicate that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think I better.
Yeah, we're gonna start. So we're pretty much. We talked about creating scrolls. We talked about there were protection scrolls that anyone can use. Cursed scrolls are very terrible, but yet. And again, the one other thing is, if a scroll has multiple scrolls, multiple spells on it, you can cast. You don't have to cast them in order. You can cast the 4th one, and it will disappear, and the other 6 remain. It doesn't destroy. So if you have a scroll of 7 spells, the 4th spell is used. The 3 below it remain. The top 3 remain. Now, however, if you mess up a spell, you can't use that slot. You have to, if you're writing it, you have to go past it. So you could have made a scroll that potentially could hold 7 spells, but if you screw it up, you can have to start over. Now you have a scroll of 6 spells.
And you can transcribe a spell into your book if you're a magic user. You only need the right spell if it is above your level.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, if you're
to
gonna,
cast. If
you're
you
going
can't
to
cast
transfer that into your spell book, which is, again, if once you do that, if you transfer it, let's say you find a scroll of a fireball, you don't have fireball, you don't want to use it one time, you want to be able to use it frequently, you would then cast write, or you could write it manually. We adjudicate write is faster to put in your book than writing
So
normally.
if it's a cleric spell, though, so clerics don't have spell books.
That doesn't work for them. They just have to use them.
Right, illusionists do.
Right.
Druids do not.
Right.
So if it's a cleric scroll,
It's a one and done.
it's a one and done. So the problem is, if you get a scroll and we know that you start to read it, then it's going to start to fade.
Well, if you don't read it, it's going to fade.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. If you don't read it, it's going to fade.
And once you read it, magically, it stays.
Right. Oh, that's right. So you've got to, right. So that's you need.
But if you want to be more logical, more consistent, then you use the rule that we're talking about, is that, every month that you, or every day that you don't read it, there should be a chance that it fades because you've broken the seal or something like that. But that's not rules as written.
Right.
Rules as written, you got to do it. So I think that's a good ending point for scrolls. We again thank John for him coming on. I'm sure Dan and I, we didn't get a chance to think about a suggestion, but so the suggestion I'm going to do is, last week we had our first Crucible meeting, and so my suggestion is go out to Crucible. Is it crucible.com? I think it is. I'll put in the link because we go to grogcon.com, and we're going to start putting information out there for. If you're interested, we're going to suggest, if you're a DM and you want to, or GM, and you want to run a old school game at GrogCon at Crucible in October here in the Orlando area, we would love for you to come down. Go to GrogCon, look up the information, and submit your things. We're going to use a tabletop tabletop events to set that up. If you need information, please go to info@grogcon.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Please like and subscribe. I want to thank, we've got some new subscribers. We had a couple of new comments thanking us for the work that we're doing here. So again, if there's topics you want us to talk about, we would love that. We love the interaction. We appreciate everyone who's listening. So I'm James.
I'm Dan.
And thank you for listening to Grog Talk. Have a great day.